Hello everyone and welcome back. In our last lesson, we demystified JSON, the universal language that our automations use to structure and carry data. And you also completed an assignment to model an object in JSON, which is a fantastic first step. So if you haven't already, be sure to share your work in our Discord group. It honestly is a great space for connecting with other people that want to learn n8n. So if you haven't joined already, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Okay, great. So what are we talking about today? Well, now that we have this beautifully structured data, what happens when that data isn't in the exact format that we need? What if a system gives you a first name and a last name in separate fields, but you need to combine them? Or what if you need to do a simple calculation before passing a number to the next service? Well, today, we're learning how to solve those problems. We're going to learn just enough JavaScript to transform, calculate, and manipulate data on the fly. Okay, so our lesson outline for today is as follows. We'll first look at the limitations of static data, and then look at JavaScript as a solution. And then we'll teach you just enough JavaScript to get up and running and using it in n8n. So for example, working with strings and working with numbers. We'll then take a look at how we actually use JavaScript in n8n, so expressions and the code node. Then we'll do a quick recap, and of course, we'll give you your assignment for this lesson. If that sounds good, let's get started. So, in order to understand why we need JavaScript, let's look at the limitations of using only the default node settings. So, imagine our workflow gets a new lead from a form. We have their first and their last name in separate columns. Our goal is to send a welcome email that says, "Welcome John Doe." But in the email node, we can only map one field at a time. We can't just drag both the first name and last name fields into the subject line to combine them. Okay, here's another example. An e-commerce platform sends us an order with a price of $100. But our accounting software needs us to add a 20% tax before we create the invoice. The standard fields in a node can't perform mathematical calculations. Without a way to dynamically change our data, we're stuck. We can only pass along the exact information we receive in the exact format we get it. Our automations will be rigid and far less powerful. This is where JavaScript comes in. n8n itself is built using JavaScript. This is great news for us because it means n8n gives us direct access to use small snippets of that same powerful language right inside our workflows. You don't need to become a programmer to use n8n, but learning a few basic JavaScript commands is the key to unlocking a new universe of automation possibilities. Think of it this way. The standard node fields are like a restaurant menu where you can only order the preset meals. JavaScript, however, gives you access to the kitchen's raw ingredients. It lets you combine a little of this, add a little of that, and create the exact custom dish you need. Okay. The best part is you already know the basics. The data types we saw in JSON, strings for text, numbers for numbers, are the exact same fundamental types in JavaScript. It's not a coincidence that JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So in JavaScript, we often store these values in variables, which are like containers for our data. We create one using the let keyword. For example, let name equal Alice. So if we take a look at the example on the screen in front of you, you can see that on the first line, we have JSON. It starts off in curly braces, ends in a curly brace, and then you have the key value pair, name Alice and age and 30. Well, if you look at JavaScript, it's very similar. You declare the variable by the let keyword, and then you say let name equals Alice. In this case, Alice is a string data type. We know that because it's in double quotes. And then you have the semicolon. So in JavaScript, you just end a statement using a semicolon. You can think of it like using a period at the end of a sentence. And then you can then add the next statement, which is declaring the age variable and assigning it to the number 30. Okay, I hope that makes sense. You can rewind, slow it down, pop in the Discord and ask questions if you're stuck or you don't quite understand something. Okay, let's take a look at working with strings. So as you can see on the screen in front of you, let's solve our first problem. Combining a first and last name. So in JavaScript, you can combine or concatenate strings using a simple plus sign. If you have a variable first name and a variable last name, you can combine them into a full name, like you can see on the screen. Notice that we add a string with a single space in the middle to make it look right. This simple operation is one of the most common things you'll do in n8n. So if we take a look at the screen, we start off with by first declaring the variables. Let first name equal John, let last name equal Doe, and then we combine them into a full name. Let full name equal first name, that space, plus last name, and the result is John Doe. Okay, now let's work with numbers. So for this problem, calculating a tax, JavaScript lets you perform standard arithmetic, just like a calculator. You can use plus for addition, minus for subtraction, times for multiplication, and a divide for division. So to calculate a total price with tax, we can multiply the price by our tax rate and then add the amount back to the original price. And just like that, you can perform calculations on your data anywhere in the workflow. So if you look at the screen, we first declare the variables. So in this instance, let price equal 100 and the tax rate is 0.2, 20%. And then you can calculate the tax amount, price times tax rate equal 20. And then you can add that tax back into the initial price to get the total price, which is 120. Hope that makes sense. Again, if you don't quite understand it, just rewind, slow it down, or pop into our Discord group. Okay, great. Let's move on. Okay, so where do we actually write this code in n8n? The most common place is in an expression. Almost any field in an n8n node can be switched to expression mode. So expressions offer small, single-line JavaScript operations. They always start with double curly braces and end with double curly braces. And inside those curly braces, you can reference your incoming data. You do this by the $, JSON, and then a period, and then the price. So in this instance, JSON the price would refer to the key in the key value pair in the JSON object, and price would equate to the corresponding value. Okay, and this method is perfect for 90% of your data manipulation needs. But what if you need to do more? Well, if you need to perform several calculations to create multiple new fields or add some more complex logic, for that, n8n gives us a dedicated tool called the code node. Think of this node as your JavaScript workshop. It gives you a full editor to write multiple lines of code to transform your items in any way you can imagine. We won't dive deep into it today, but it's crucial to know it exists for when your logic gets more complex. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. We've learned that relying only on static data is limiting. And by learning just a tiny amount of JavaScript, we've gained the superpower to manipulate text and numbers anywhere in our workflow. We can use quick single-line expressions for most tasks, and we have the more powerful code node ready for more complex jobs. Okay, great. That's really all you need to know. In the next lesson, we'll take a look at the n8n interface and go through what the raw data looks like in terms of using JavaScript in n8n, and also how the JSON looks as well from the previous lesson that we covered. So we'll get to tie it all together in the next lesson, and I'll show you what it looks like in n8n, looking at raw data in a JSON object, as well as using JavaScript in n8n live as well. Okay, great. What's your assignment for this lesson? Well, your assignment is to practice this new skill without the pressure of the n8n interface. So in a plain text file, I want you to solve two simple puzzles. Write the single line of JavaScript code that would produce the correct result for each challenge. And this will help the syntax become second nature to you. And once you have your solutions, of course, please share them in our Discord. Just paste the code snippets right into the chat. It's the best way to get quick confirmation that you're on the right track and to help your fellow students as well. Okay, well, thank you for watching. And like I said in our next lesson, we're going to combine everything we've learned in the JSON lesson and this lesson, and we'll dissect a real n8n node piece by piece. So I will see you there.